Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Jackal Den podcast post-game episode. I am back after my absence last week. It was really entertaining to watch Rick, the Jackal King Collins, and Kabui do this thing. I enjoyed it from afar. Obviously, out celebrating after my engagement, but
well earned, sir. Well earned.
Yeah. It was great. Glad she said yes. I'm glad you guys let everybody know she did say yes. Still kind of living off of that. She got the right size ring this week, so she was pretty happy about that. We had a game this weekend, but first we need to get to announcements, obviously. Rick, would you like to do
Absolutely. So we will be having a watch party. I don't expect a huge turnout. It is a Friday night match against Seattle in Seattle. So that means we will be 9 p.m. Central Standard Time for kickoff. So a late finish to the game Friday night. But hey, we'll keep it up. We'll have people there at the Londoner. They are ready to serve us, those that come, and enjoy the game, enjoy the atmosphere. And this is the last, I believe, non-Saturday game on the schedule, if I remember correctly. I believe the rest of the games are Saturday matches. For sure, all the home games are going to be Saturday, 7 p.m. So a little consistency after this week. Now, that does mean we're on a short week. Coming back from San Diego to play Seattle, another one of the top teams in our division. But the way we played against San Diego and the way we played against Houston, I'm not as concerned about this upcoming match, but I'll leave that for a little bit later. We also have news of, obviously, everybody's aware the president is Steve Violetta is no longer with the club. We will just be moving on from there. Our communication will move to Joshua Beringer, who has been kind of the head of ticket sales and kind of Steve's right-hand man as far as kind of business operations go, I guess. So we will forward all our questions on to him, all our concerns. Hopefully we'll be able to set something up that will continue the relationship we have as a fan club with the business side of the Jackals going forward. So those are the two biggest pieces of news from a Jackal Den fan club side. The biggest Jackals news was we finally announced a signing, which must have occurred last Monday because that was the last day of free agency and trades within MLR. And I assume there are allowed free agent signings afterwards due to injury. I know there are concessions on that side from the league to allow players to be signed because teams are short of players. That makes a lot of sense. But in terms of normal free agency and trades, last Monday was the last day to do that. So we have finally gotten the social media / public announcement of Thomas Gubia. He was last playing in SLAR with the Jaguars. That was before the Jaguars is now, I believe, split up into the Pampas and Dogos, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe you're right.
He's a 25-year-old center, obviously from Argentina, another Argentine. Not a big surprise, but hopefully somebody who can play anywhere along the back line, similar to Tomas, even though we've seen Tomas almost entirely at outside center. He was brought onto the team as a kind of a jack of all trades back. And from what I've seen of Tomas, it looks like he will be outside center / wings. Don't know if he can play fullback, but it looks like he's got a decent enough skill set he could. So we will see how he fits in with the rest of the team. I'm sure he'll be very comfortable where the team language spoken most common would be Spanish. So he's not going to be too far off. But at least we signed somebody. We did something.
Yeah. I don't really feel personally that maybe the needs were really addressed properly, but we're not in the front office. We don't know these things. So it's just, I kind of feel like we had a lot greater needs than a center, I guess. Maybe that's just my personal opinion. But
I also think it's interesting. We're going to have this nice, social media announcement of this player, but Gordon doesn't get any announcement. He just shows up on a roster.
Cam Nelson? No
Cam
announcement.
Nelson, no announcement. Just he actually, we found out about Cam from a fan in the group telling us that their son had joined the team. I believe it was the mom saying that their son had joined the team. So it's one of the things that I think going forward has to be better from the club. And I think with the new communication that we've had, that things will be better in terms of signing. Obviously, at least we're getting an announcement this go around with Tomas, but it is getting confusing now. There's several Tomases on the team. There's several Juan Pablos on the team. How many JPs can we have on one team? And Tomas, we got JP Aguirre, and we got Juan Pablo Zeiss. JP Zeiss. So, Anyway, it's good to have a new player. Obviously, there are injuries that occur over the season, and you want to make sure you have coverage for that. We'll see how he fits in. I think one of the biggest concerns we've had so far is we've really been, one of the things that the coaches had talked about when they first came on was how many players were used last year. And that was obviously because of major injury issues that we had.
Yeah.
But this year, I would say the concern is we may be overusing some players. We're not giving a lot of guys much of a break. And I feel that's more of a out of need. We're not the San Diego Legion. We can drop a B team in and win, a match in MLR. So it's going to be really difficult for us to play our backups and win matches regularly. So they haven't been doing that, and we've, some of these guys, you see some of them limping around on the field on Saturday. So,
well, there are two guys that have started every single game this year. Do you know who those two are?
It's got to be Milanos and Zeiss didn't start. Boyson
is one.
Rura did not start one. It's not him. And Vara?
Yeah.
Okay.
Both him.
When did Milanos not start?
I think they didn't even dress him for one game.
Okay, maybe at the very beginning of the season.
Yeah.
I'll bet you're right. Yeah, they didn't dress him the first week. Okay.
And Milanos, we have seen him at fullback. The scrimmage versus NOLA, he was our starting fullback in that game.
I'm not counting that.
And we complained about him constantly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was.
He's found a home at outside center. He's been phenomenal.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, obviously after the weekend he had, they haven't released the 15 for the league, but I would be absolutely shocked if he's not on it.
Yeah, it not only offensively with the two tries, but defensively, he was extremely stout out there. And I think the fear was if Matananu plays, Tomas looks small, but it doesn't matter how big the guy is he's going against. That big Fijian wasn't going anywhere.
No.
Saturday night.
So yeah, the final score from Saturday night, 47-38, a nail biter or edge of your seat game, obviously going.
It's so weird because I want to say it was much closer than that, but there was a time period where it could have gotten much, much worse. And the boys fought back. The early in the about 60-minute mark, it looked like it was going to get away from us. And by the 70th minute mark, we were making a game of it again. And then all of a sudden, 77th minute, we get a shot at winning this thing. And, I went back and rewatched the tape, and, I'll give the referee benefit of the doubt. As his first match. I was not aware that Khalil, apologize. You're watching this, that this was your first MLR match. Got to give a guy a little bit of leeway in his first, match at that level. It was rough, but rewatching it, there was a lot of stuff that maybe he calls it the other way and looks at TMO to confirm that and things go differently for us. He didn't make the calls those ways, and because of the angles of the cameras, couldn't really see things clearly. So I understand where the TMO just said, I can't confirm or deny the call on the field. Just, stay with your call on the field. And so you just go, oh, like he saw it up on the scoreboard.
I too went back and watched it earlier.
All being grounded. There are just several moments where it's like,
it's obvious.
It's a split-second decision, and in my opinion, he didn't make the right decision. And not just the Jackal side. There were several moments where we clearly should have been penalized, or their player should not have gotten a yellow card, and he gave a yellow card, and I thought, that is the softest yellow card I've ever seen. I thought after rewatching it, knowing that it was his first match, not bad. I mean, I thought he communicated, and part of it is we can't hear in the crowd. We can't hear what he's communicating to players, how he's communicating with the TMO and the ARs. I thought he did a decent job. Having said that, I still would have liked some of the calls to go differently, but who knows if he doesn't give the yellow card, maybe we don't score there at the end because we're still down a man. So all in all, there were a few plays that it was like, man, I mean, you got to catch that kickoff. There are several kickoffs that we fluffed that we absolutely should have caught.
There are
plays that we should have made. And with the talent that we have, we were capable of making, and we just didn't.
I mean, our set piece play was pretty bad on Saturday.
This was the worst set piece game we've had.
Overthrown lineouts, crooked lineouts. We weren't even, I wouldn't say competitive in the scrum, but what we've been all year, we've been holding our own at scrum time and sometimes dominating in games at scrum time. And we were just never dominated at any side of it. Yeah. Obviously our mauls going in to score looked good, but everything else just it didn't look like it was 100% there.
Which is funny because the maul was the portion of the lineout that didn't look good most of the year.
And now it looks good.
Saturday, the maul was good, but the lineouts were really, really hit and miss. And I hesitate to say poor, but borderline poor. And is that because of what San Diego is able to do? Because I'm going to go ahead and say, from everything I've watched so far this year, they're the best lineout team in the league.
Maybe that's what it was.
I don't think it's close.
Yeah.
And part of that is having one of, a 6'8" All Black, former All Black in there jumping for them. But they run a phenomenal, especially defensive lineout. Wow, they disrupted almost every single one of our lineouts.
It was like, they kind of made a non-factor out of Sam Gola, which no teams have really done this year on the lineouts. He's been very dominant all year long, and it was like he was a non-factor there. But tries coming from Roar at the 12th minute, Milanos getting 2 tries at 30th and 37th minute. Boyson gets the penalty try in the second half. Gomez Vara scores at 73rd minute. And Campbell Johnstone scores at the 78th minute. This is when we're all standing up knowing that, okay, all we got to do is collect this kick.
If they had kicked the ball dead from the kickoff and we win a scrum penalty, we got a shot at dead center middle field.
And who was it Gordon that went up, and who was lifted and bobbled the ball? I don't even remember seeing who that was. I mean, I watched it, but I don't remember.
And now I don't remember either. I would have to go back and watch.
It was a mistake that
I thought it was Burr, but I could totally be wrong.
Yeah, it was something that was uncharacteristic of how we've played this year. And for this, second time in a row, we've had it happen. We've had everything slip away from us at the last moments.
Yeah.
And obviously, you don't like to lose. You feel like the officiating's pretty bad, but then you go back and you realize, okay, he was doing the best of his ability. It was his first game. And then you kind of just look at the issues with the yellow cards, constant yellow cards, it seemed. And then
no, it was Gola being lifted by Steves.
Oh wow, so it was Gola that made the mistake.
And it was Cam Nelson who was behind him, and Cam didn't really make a play on the ball. I had noted that in my comments that, I mean, when you're behind those lifters, you just got to expect that the ball's not going to be caught and go for it.
Yeah.
And I think he hesitated, thinking the ball's going to be caught, and the ball landed right in front of him, bounced right to, I think they're out one of the centers, and then Lutz got the offload and put it down for the. I mean, he went about 10 meters before they pulled him down.
Yeah, it was obviously a heartbreaker there at the end of the game. There were things that I saw in the game that really, I brought it up and I made a note to say something about the chip kick that Louis Satama had in the second half. I even messaged him. I didn't know he had that in him. Like, we've never seen him do chip kicks.
His skill set was on full display. His touch passes over the top, one-handed carrying the ball and offloading it. Man, I was impressed.
He's one of those guys
and I thought he was one of the more impressive players in his per minute on the field.
I mean, he's one of those guys that came in last year and was kind of an immediate impact on the team. And I think this year it's been, because the team is so different, I think it's been, the opportunities just haven't really been there for him like they were last year.
Well, and it could just be the communication piece, and he's just starting to get a groove with the guys. And I think he looks great with this team. And then obviously the firepower he brings defensively. He's obviously a huge help, and Viafale, I think also can be a huge asset to this team going forward as well. I'd like to hold on to both of them are American, players. So you got to have good Americans somewhere on the side, and both of them can play in multiple places and be dynamic. Not necessarily the fastest guys on the pitch, but dynamic in other ways.
Another moment was that first try that we had with Rora, that kick from Martin Tincho Elias across the field. He gets it. It's what we had been complaining about with Rora all year. He wasn't chasing the ball down.
Yeah.
And he finally busts through, gets the ball, scores the try. And it was like, this is something that like we knew him to do last year.
Yeah.
Incessantly. Like he was known for that. And it was good to see him finally get out
there. I think they're asking him to do different things this year. It's not just get the ball on the loose and make plays happen. So, it could just be that he's just got a lot on his plate. But those opportunities when you get him on the outside and he's a tall guy.
He's a sevens player.
Good jumper, has amazing hands. Got bear paws on the end of his arms. And so, it's kind of like having a Mike Evans in the end zone or whatever. You just throw it up to him,
he's going to
go get it. So that was phenomenal to see. And I think seeing Ticho make good kicks, making good decisions, seemed really different than what we've seen the last 3 or 4 weeks.
I feel like as the weeks go on, Ticho gets a lot more confidence and is being more of that. Well, we brought it up, U20 captain for Argentina. We're starting to see those skill sets that we didn't know he had. He's finally getting comfortable enough to really bring them to the forefront. And I'm liking what I was really worried about fly half the whole time this season, especially once we shipped Carlson out the door.
Oh, yeah.
What are we going to do? But we seem to be just fine at fly half.
Yeah. I mean, I'd still like to have Carlson.
So would I.
But the play of the night for me was Rura's chip kick to himself, and he caught it on the fly. Oh, my God.
That was so awesome. That was so awesome.
What have we been talking about? We literally have been badgering this team to do chip kicks and grubbers, and we had like 4 or 5 of them that worked like perfectly.
Yeah. Sometimes it works. But you're not going to know unless you try.
That was beautiful, though. I was like, dang, man, like we got to see more of this.
So we get to our 3 stars of the game. Did you pick yours already, Rick?
I think mine are pretty easy. I just think Rura, Milanos, and Boyson and I'm between Boyson and Gola. I think Gola did not have his best game. I think Boyson just every week he's bringing out the hammer, the tackling. He's still up there in the top 3, I think, in tackles, and he just seems all over the pitch. But I mean, it's really hard because Vara's been phenomenal too. I think part of it is that I just expect a lot from Vara. Vara's probably the big name, big boy in this team.
Yeah.
He's a captain and everything. There's a lot expected of him. So we just kind of say, oh, well, no, that's just normal Vara. But he's just really good too.
Yeah. Even Boyson has had some amazing carries this season as well. Something that we didn't really get to see of last year of him.
Yep.
Here, he's had some really, really good runs with the ball. And he's another one of those guys you rarely, I think I've seen him come off the pitch maybe twice. He's playing full shifts, kind of much like Bronson Ellis was last year for us. He's playing full shifts. So I do, Boyson has been proper this year. I go, a couple of mine are the same, and then one is different, and I kind of explain why. Obviously, Rora and Milanos. Rora, just because he was at it the whole game. He was in his element, getting balls,
and limping. I started worrying when I saw him limping. I pointed that out. I was like, uh-oh. But you know what? Didn't bother him a bit, did it?
No, not at all. I have Milanos, obviously, for the 2 tries. He really, really got hungry. You could tell even on that second try.
Putting tail on skates.
Yeah, he was just he was ready for it that second one, and he went under the bars for a reason. He wanted it to count. And then my last one goes to somebody that we haven't really mentioned all year, and I had brought it up. It was the first time we had seen him at wing. I don't remember seeing him at wing at all last year. He had played fullback a bit last year, but mostly he was a center.
Yep.
And he was also our first try scorer in history. And that's Campbell Johnstone. With the try, obviously that helps, but he had a lot of really good runs. He seemed like he had good ball control for the most part. There were a couple of lapses in defensive judgment on his part. I think it's because he's also not a winger.
Right.
But the longer this season has gone on, the more I've realized our real problem with our wingers, it's speed is one, but I think really overall it's size is where we lack, because there's a lot of wings in this league that are 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", and we just don't have that. We've got a lot of undersized guys, and so I gave my third to him just because he hasn't really gotten.
Hey, we worried so much about Augsburger out on the outside, and where did Augsburger make things happen? He made it happen in the middle of the field. He ran away from where our defense was. And so I think that says a lot about how the outside defense was yesterday. The exterior outside defense has not been brilliant this year, but I mean, it's night and day from last year. Obviously, a lot of things are night and day from last year, but I think Campbell did a very, very serviceable job defensively. My biggest concern, because of speed and everything, is really on counterattacks, and we're maybe not getting back into positions we should. There's not a lot of these opportunities. You see all the other teams doing it. Even San Diego did it quite a bit, right? Where you have Hooley or Tail back there kicking. They've got Augsburg or somebody like that chasing, and either chasing down and making a play on the ball, or just putting pressure on the ball catcher, and we don't do that at all. All of those kicks happen from high kicks off a free play. We're not getting the ball back and then putting the other team under pressure with a high long kick from deep. And I think part of that is maybe wings that just aren't quite fast enough to get back in position, and then also then chase those kicks. So
our flankers do the chasing. Our wings don't do the chasing.
We're not doing the chasing at all.
Yeah, and I think teams are seeing that too, and I think that's why they adjust their game plan accordingly.
And I think San Diego did pretty well kicking us into those positions.
Yeah.
Houston should have and didn't. I think we both thought that Houston could have just murdered us by kicking, high and deep, and they did not. So I do expect that in the next, 2-3 matches, we're going to see a lot more teams attacking us that way because it's a weakness for sure.
Yeah, it's with Houston. I mean, they weren't doing that to us, but their head coach was definitely laying a smackdown this week. Obviously, this has set the internet world ablaze with.
Yeah, if y'all haven't seen that, I'm sure you can find it just about every whatever social media.
Yeah, it was on Ball Carrier. It was on all of them when I got up this morning, and it's kind of having to kind of like step into the comments and being like, "Hey, it's really not like that over here, guys." Because a lot of people around the world have not heard about this league, and when they see that, they're like, "Whoa!" And it's just like, this isn't the norm, guys. These were
WWE.
Well, it's two guys that are both ultra competitive coaches, and sometimes tempers flare, and it does happen, but obviously not an indication, a true indicator of what this league is.
No, there's the saying of any not any news is good news, but
there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Yeah, any publicity is good publicity, and I think where we are as a league, we'll take just about any publicity we can get, but we don't want to be continuously putting out this kind of publicity. Let's be honest. We want people to come over and watch the runaround that San Diego and Dallas had this weekend. All the tries scored.
Yeah,
I thought it 80 to 90% of the game was very good rugby, with a little bit of that's not great, and then obviously, if the refereeing was 10%, 20% better, I think it was a phenomenal game. And I really don't want to get on the rest too much, but I'm sure he'll get much better as he goes. And I would like to see the ARs, as we've said, I think every episode for the last 4 or 5. I'd love to see the ARs, especially with a rookie ref out there, be more in his ear and really, helping him out, because I think there are multiple occasions where they didn't help him out much.
And it was a shame because he could have used the help, obviously.
Absolutely.
The first game. Yeah. But it's still a young league. We're still in season 6, obviously.
And I think if we really get this league going the next couple of years, we're going to see referees from around the world
overseas,
to do a season over here, live over here for a year or whatever. Not a year, but the 6 months or whatever. And so maybe we'll get some better referees over. Those referees are going to bring their experience to the referees that are already over here. And as we've mentioned before, we've lost referees to international competitions going on this year, and so we haven't had kind of our top flight level of referees. I saw Kat was back on the pitch in MLR. She was refereeing. Oh goodness,
was she up in Toronto?
I think she was in Toronto.
Yeah, for Seattle and
Toronto. Seattle. I believe you're correct on that one. So it's good to have her back over here. She's been refereeing over at Six Nations, Women's Six Nations. So it's good to get some of these referees back. We still have a few that we're missing, I guess, for other tournament reasons. And I think some were maybe out on their visas or something like that. So we'll see. I think the refereeing's definitely going to get better. There's a lot of young referees coming up, hopefully more. Anybody's interested, make sure you contact USA Rugby. There's definitely referee courses going around. I'm trying to find one to do a level 100 myself, so I can yell at them more appropriately.
Well, it's been obviously the schedule is still going to continue to get tough in spots, but I think
just halfway through the season
we're over that hump that we rode all last season and have ridden a couple of times this season. I'd like to have, for what I've seen on the pitch, I'd like to think that hump is over. I don't think you're going to see absolutely.
Yeah, in my opinion, I agree with you. I think as long as we stay healthy, this team is capable of winning at least 2 more matches. Look, We just played two of the best teams in the league.
And took one of them to the break.
Maybe the two best teams in the league.
Yeah.
And lost very close matches to them.
Yeah.
We were in shooting range late. So, Seattle this next week, I don't think it's out of question that we can beat them. They've got a very good side, but they're also riddled with injury. They barely held on to Toronto.
Yeah, that was a real big shocker for me.
And they're already talking on their fan group. They're worried about this game because of the way we've been playing. So we can win this. We put everybody on the back row thinking about when the Jackals come to town.
We could be a spoiler. If you're thinking you're getting a solid slot into the playoffs, we could ruin it for you. And
Utah better watch out late.
Yeah, I don't mind
they
having
got a playoff shot, and we could sneak up on them.
So, but with that being said, it is getting kind of late here. I know we both have work in the morning, but we will end this one with what we always try to end it with. This is another edition of the Jakl Den podcast made by the fans for the fans. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.